All right, I see a few people starting to join, so I'll go ahead and kick us off. Welcome everyone to the first installment of our series on sustaining giving. Over the course of May and June, we'll be covering this topic in a few different angles. So I hope that you plan to join us for all four if you are free for them. We've set aside 30 minutes for today's presentation, so we're just going to dive right in, get a few housekeeping items out of the way, and then introduce our speakers. Today's webinar is being recorded, so if you have to drop early or had a colleague who wanted to join, we will be sending that recording out within 24 hours. We will also be sharing a PDF of the slides. We have a lot of stats in our slides for you today, so if you don't worry about having to scribble all of them down, you will be getting these slides later on in the week. Take a second to find the Q&A icon in your Zoom toolbar. This is where you'll be able to interact with our speakers. We've got a few minutes set aside for questions, provided we go through all our slides pretty quickly here. But you can ask questions throughout, and then we also have a poll question that we will be launching, so be ready and prepared to participate in that. With those items out of the way, it's now my pleasure to introduce today's guests. First, we are joined by Kim Richardson, and Kim is celebrating 10 years at Pursuant this year. Congrats, Kim.
Thank you.
In her role at Pursuant, Kim leads cross-channel fundraising strategy and program execution across multiple clients in the faith, general, nonprofit, and higher education verticals. She's had a lot of success with our clients here at Pursuant and GivingDNA, and we're just excited to have her share some of the insights and learnings that she's gathered over those 10 years. Prior to joining Pursuant, Kim worked for more than 15 years in corporate marketing and sales with 4 of America's beloved consumer brands, including Hallmark. So she really knows her stuff. We are also thrilled to welcome Becca Segovia, and she has more than 2 decades of leadership experience spanning the disciplines of marketing, fundraising, and technology. And Becca has a rich technology background, previously working at Convio, which became Blackbaud. More recently, she's taken on a leadership role with GivingDNA, our proprietary donor engagement platform. And we help nonprofits make sense of their data, segment it, and use it for hyper-personalized outreach to their donors. So welcome, Becca and Kim.
Thanks for having us, Leah.
Yeah, we're glad to be diving into today's topic.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've got a poll question for you. And while I pull it up, Becca, do you want to kind of unpack our question a little bit while I get that poll ready?
Sure. All right. So we're just curious of those of you that are on the call, how many of you already have a sustained giving program? Sometimes they're called monthly giving programs. We were actually talking as we were getting ready for today, what is the proper term in the industry? Because I think everybody calls it something different. And then the question here is, is your program monthly? Is it happening quarterly? Do you think of it annually? If you have a different way that you're thinking about your monthly sustaining program, see what I did there? I'm just going to call it monthly sustaining. Then we cover all the bases, because that's what we're going to be talking about here today is what does it look like to create a monthly sustaining giving program? So we are excited to see who we've got on the call today and how you are thinking about sustaining giving.
Yep. All right. I'll give about 2 or 3 more seconds for everybody to get their answers in, and then we'll share those results.
Great.
All right. Fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Thank you for everyone who's participated. And are you able to see those results, Becca?
We are. So drum roll is that most of you say our sustaining giving program is a monthly program. 69% of you have that going on. A few of you, 15% are annual. And then we've got 15% that are going to be write-in. So we're excited to talk a little bit today about what it looks like to think in that monthly mindset. But some of the tools and strategies that we'll give you today, you can also think annually. What would you want to put in place in order to have an annual program? The good news is you guys have a program in place. And so today we're going to talk about what it looks like to create that sustaining giving program, really making the case for it back at your organization if you don't have one. And if you do have one, what are the things that we need to be thinking about as we optimize that program?
Yep. And then right up here on this slide, before we get into our content today, wanted to just provide a series outline of what we're going to be discussing over these 4 webinar sessions. Today, as Becca shared, we're going to be really diving into kind of the current conditions in philanthropy, as well as the case for investing in sustaining giving, and also the case for growing the program that you already have and really optimizing that monthly program. And then as you see in the next few sessions, we'll be looking at the technology that supports that program. We think of sustaining and monthly giving most often as a subset of digital and online giving. So what does that look like? As well as some examples of successful monthly giving programs, sustained giving programs, as well as what the future may hold. We've got a really great lineup of speakers for all of these webinars. So once again, just be looking for those invites in your inbox. All right, Becca, why don't we look at current conditions?
Awesome. I'm so excited to jump right in. I am fresh off of the AFP Icon conference, and it was great to be in person, back with some friends and fundraising. And some of the things that we were talking about at the conference is really what's happening in the world today, right? We've just come off of 2 years of living in pandemic times, and things were uncertain. And in 2022, here we are now at Cinco de Mayo, we're in May, and 2022 has its own challenges. And so as we think about just the world that we're living in right now, the things that are at play, and you're thinking about starting a sustaining giving program, we wanted just to say, okay, here's what's happening. And so how and why does this factor into our decision to either start or optimize a program? So as you can see up here on the right, we've got inflation as high as it's ever been. Wages aren't keeping, up with that. We're sitting in a time where the consumer sentiment has hit an all-time decade low in March. The stock market has been erratic. Interest rates are high. And so this is the mindset of not only consumers, but consumers are also donors. And so, how are they going to navigate, if you will, 2022 as they're thinking about giving? And so on the next slide, the second kind of big stat that I was staring at is this from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project, and 2.7% is the big number on the screen here, and that's really what growth looked like from 2020 to 2021, Q4 over Q4. So that growth in giving, a lot of the organizations that I talked to at AFP said, yes, that was my experience. I saw revenue up, but that stat there in red, number of people who gave, is the one that we should be really concerned about, 5.7%. So less donors giving more dollars. And that seemed to play out with the people that I had a chance to talk to. And so we said, okay, what does this really mean for us? If I'm going to place some bets, we were in Vegas for AFP Icon, where should I focus my time, my attention, my energy? And so these are the 4 areas, and we're going to obviously drill down on one of these today. But if you are thinking about how do I navigate this uncertain 2022, these are the things that we think you should pay attention to. So number 1, retention. Take a long, hard look at your retention and say, okay, where am I and where do I need to be? Because I need to be a charity of choice for the organization, for the donors that I have the opportunity to be in front of, and I need to retain that revenue and those donors. Sustaining giving is a great way to bolster retention. And so what does it look like to create or optimize the monthly program or annual program, it sounds like, that we have? And so that's where we're going to spend some of our time today, is just, okay, what's the why? What's the case for sustaining giving? And then mid-level, if you don't have, we're going to pop back. Yeah. If we don't have a mid-level program, it's something to be mindful of and thinking about what would it look like to start or optimize that mid-level program. What we know in mid-level is that they often can retain 60 to 70% of those, and sometimes better than we can our major donors. And so just thinking through those 3 things, retention, sustainers, and mid-level, those are things that if we're not doing, we need to pay attention to them. If we are doing, how do we optimize those 3 areas? And the last is certainly not least, case for support. So we need to have a clear case for support for our organization, but what is more important is really understanding the donor sentiment and what their case for support is for our organization, so that we can take the things that they care about that align with our organization and make sure that we're putting those opportunities to get engaged and give in front of them. And so that's really important. And as I think about when we were back on the trend slide, It's your lower to middle income families that are going to be in a place where they are potentially having to choose. They may have been given to 7 or 8 different charities over the last year, that $25, $50, $125. And they're going to have to think about, I may only be able to give 3 or 4 organizations. And so that's where that case for support comes in. And then that's also where paying attention to retention and sustaining giving could play a role. And then when I'm thinking about those major donors, I'm thinking about that it's not that they're not going to give, they may just look, it may just look different. They may give through a different channel than they typically give. And so those are kind of the cases that were coming out of AFP as we were talking about, okay, what does the world look like as we think about fundraising? And so again, I said that on that second one, the place where we're gonna double down today is really what are the trends in sustaining giving and how do we think about that program? And so here are just some of the stats that kind of help you go back and make that case internally. And this is sourced from Blackbaud. So 44% growth in sustained givers over the last 5 years. So for me, that makes me think about consumer mindset. And we'll see that play out here in a minute. But we are used to now having that subscription, right? Whatever that subscription is. Is it Netflix? Is it how I subscribe to whatever it is that shows up on my doorstep from Amazon? That is the mindset of our culture today, especially for Xers, millennials, and the generations behind that. And so it's a great place to start when you're thinking about how do I grow and retain the base. 24% growth in monthly giving between 2021 and 2022. It also accounted for 22% of online giving. And so to Leah's point earlier, oftentimes these programs will start in digital. It doesn't mean that you don't have them in the mail. That is a place to actually have them as well for those that choose to give that way. But we're seeing that growth really happen online, and then 10% growth in the median number of sustainers between 2020 and 2021. So it's an area of growth. People are thinking this way. So if we don't have a program in place, we need to start thinking about what that looks like and what we want to call it. So on the next slide, this is where I was talking about a few minutes ago. Millennials are really poised for this type of growth, both becoming an annual donor, but more importantly, becoming a monthly donor. We love that predictable revenue stream that monthly giving offers us. And so this research also out from Blackbaud is sharing that this is a great area to recruit and retain millennials. And so you'll see that 42% of them became an annual donor last year and 40% of them became a monthly donor. And so again, that mindset of recurring is already there for us. And last, but certainly not least, just wanted to share a quote that really undergirds what we've been talking about. 40% of millennials were said that they were likely to give to new causes, and the donors who subscribe to monthly consumer membership services, such as those things we were talking about, Netflix, Amazon, meal kits, that habit that they have created in the consumer space is translating over into the way that they want to engage with the organizations that they care about. So I'm going to hand it over to Kim here. We're going to talk a little bit more about why and some of the things that we need to consider as we're starting a sustaining giving program. So Kim, I'll let you take it away here.
Great. Thanks, Becca. Those are all such great stats when we think about what's going on in the world and just kind of grounding ourselves in that. So, now we're going to kind of talk about the why behind why we should even be looking at this type of program. And as we mentioned up front, there are all kinds of sustained giving programs, but for the sake of our discussion today, and, just as an agency that works with so many other nonprofits, the area that we see to be the most successful and the most sustaining for the organization is monthly giving. So that's where we're kind of going to hone in on. And again, it just supports what Becca just talked about, what consumers are already doing with the whole subscription mindset. So when we think about the case for sustained giving, there really are 3 important headlines. That's retention, engagement, and then finally that pipeline. So when we think about retention, what we're seeing is that monthly giving really affords the organization, when there's a strong program in place, to see like 80% of retention rates in just the first year, and then 95% or more, even as they go into subsequent years. After 5 years, people at that point are really sold on both the mission as well as the impact that they know they're making on the mission. Engagement's another a big headline. when it comes to your case for why you should have a sustained giving program. These donors just tend to be very loyal, and they're great ambassadors for your organization. And when we look at programs that are branded, it's really interesting to see how a lot of the people even refer to themselves as being a part of that group. So they may say, I'm a strategic partner, or I'm a guardian for XYZ nonprofit. So they start to really gather around the idea that they are, they're making a difference with your organization and with your mission. And as we think about our annual fund donors who may not ever be able to give those larger gifts at the mid-level or whatever, they actually can give nearly at the mid-level when they're committing to that monthly impact. So they're able to make a big impact over time. It may not just be, one fell swoop, but they're making a big impact over time. And they're really helping to drive that retention that we talked about on that first headline. And then finally, what we see is because of their loyalty to the causes that they really believe in, they also are prime candidates for planned giving, because many of them want to help ensure that the organization, that mission that they bought into continues to touch lives even after they're gone. So there's they make a great pipeline for your planned giving. So as I mentioned, these are the headlines, and now we'll kind of unpack the true value of sustained giving programs. So go to the next one, Leah. Thank you. So first of all, just the long-term retention. So we kind of, piqued the interest on that initially there in our other slide, but in a good year, we think about our average donor retention rates being around 46% overall. But when you look at monthly sustainers, that rate goes up significantly to 80% in that first year. And then, 5 years down the line, we see, 95%. But even more, many monthly giving programs allow donors the flexibility if they want to send a check or whatever. But what we see and what we believe is most ideal is if we can get those donors who commit to monthly giving to go into a more EFT or electronics fund transfer type of relationship or credit card, where just like the Amazons and the Netflix of the world in terms of how they're receiving those dollars, that it becomes just set up as a recurring payment. So the organization, sees that continual stream of income. And it's actually kind of a set it and forget it, if you will, for the donor. It's something they don't have to think about, but also know that they are making a difference because they've made this commitment. Equally as important, again, as I mentioned, these are some of our best planned giving candidates for your organization. They continue to make that impact, as they set up this legacy gift for the organization. This truth is really significant, and that is the increased revenue that an organization can experience with recurring monthly giving. What we see is the average recurring gift is about $52, which equates to $624 in a given year. So once that donor is kind of sold in on your mission, that ease of and convenience of automatic giving really provides an assurance that they need to, just to recognize that no matter what they're doing, no matter how busy their lives become, they don't have to step away from their support for an organization, for a mission that they believe in. So it really becomes a really nice convenience for them. Another byproduct for the organization is the savings that an organization can experience, particularly when we think about our direct mail programs, as donors move to that more recurring relationship. If we have seen nothing in this last year, as we try and crawl out of the pandemic, we have seen just incredible supply chain issues, postal increases, and all of that. So as an organization looks at all the channels in which they go to spread their communication message and to raise funds, to be able to reduce the cost of that particular outlay over time is a huge advantage to the organization. So it is a byproduct that comes with, having more recurring donors. And it also helps, add right to the bottom line when you have more people that are giving without having to always prompt with that direct mail piece. Also, as mentioned before, 1 in 7 of those folks will leave a financial gift in their will to the organization. And again, getting back to those millennial donors that Becca talked about, monthly giving really provides a way for these younger donors to, who may not be at their earning peak at this time, to make smaller gifts that still have a bigger impact overall. Okay. The previous 2 values that I've mentioned are great in terms of sustained giving, but when the message is communicated to donors, one of the big ones is this just really helps the organization focus on the mission for which they were, created to do. So this should be one of the top things that's communicated as you make that case for why donors should become regular recurring givers to your organization. Donors give to nonprofits to really help them solve important problems and issues that they see facing our society and world. So letting them know that they can provide an automatic monthly gift really allows them to lean into that and do exactly that, to really make a difference in the world. It focuses on the heart of the organization's mission, with less worry for where the funds are going to come from and where they have to focus in terms of raising them. So it really does allow the organization to be freed up to do what they were established to do. Also, this predictable income stream allows for more reliable budget and program planning. We know that programs are not stagnant. There's always different needs that emerge for the different organizations that are doing great work in the world. So having that predictable income allows them to say, this is what we're seeing, and we really need to invest in that way. And we know that we can, and we can plan to do that because we have this, this army of donors that have committed to us in such a significant way. So it really does help the organization just to do better in the world. And we even find that because these monthly givers, or these recurring donors, are giving so often, their income can be relied on more than even some of the larger, more episodic kinds of major gifts. Okay. Finally, I think a real nice byproduct, and we've seen this with some of our clients, is having that strong monthly giving or sustained giving program in place. When you have the right environment, this group of donors really become a community in and of themselves. They become really relationally tied to both the organization and even to each other, to others, who have made that similar commitment and are engaged with that nonprofit organization. We've seen that, there's relationships that become fostered across this donor group. It helps them feel more like they're not just donors, but they're actually a part of a movement. So that's really exciting for a lot of donors that make that commitment. As well, depending on the type of organization it is, we've seen that these, the monthly donors, as they come together, they kind of create their own safe space for learning and for sharing. We really see that in the faith space. So it's a really important byproduct that happens that, is maybe wasn't necessarily planned in the beginning, but we're seeing how it creates a community and brings people together. So, we really hope that what you've seen so far helps you see the value of sustained giving for your organization, and hopefully gives you a few nuggets that you can take back to share with your internal fundraising teams and your leadership teams to really make the investment in this type of program. And we're going to talk, I'm excited to see some of the other sessions, because you're going to hear from organizations that are doing it and how it has become transformational for their organization and led to greater retention, revenue, and then a lot of the long-term impact. So Becca's going to take us through what's coming up for you so that you can make sure that you tune in next time.
Yeah. So as Kim mentioned, this is really about the why. Let's make the case for sustained giving and talk about what it can do for our organization and how it can help us as we think about, 2022 and beyond. Next up, we're going to talk about the how and the what So that's our session 2. And then session 3, we're going to pull it all together. And so that's why you see a teaser here for that. We have, we're going to do real life case studies with the real life people that put those programs together to talk about what it looked like and what those results were. And then our 4th series, as Leah mentioned at the beginning, we're going to say, okay, what's next? So how do we continue to innovate around sustained giving? And so again, we hope that you stay tuned with us over the next couple of weeks as we really unpack what it looks like to get a program. Now you've got the why, the what and the how to start it up, real life experience, and then how do we want to innovate from there. So we're excited that you joined us today, and we're happy to take any questions that have come up in the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you both for getting through all that content so quickly and quite thoroughly, I might add as well. As everyone is maybe looking down your notes and seeing if you've got any questions for us, I wanted to put this resource in front of you. This resource is going to be coming to your inbox today. We're really excited about this ebook that we've been working on for the past couple of months. And it really plays into what we're going to be speaking about at our next webinar, session 2, which is, here's how do you actually implement a successful digital program that includes monthly giving at your organization with really powerful technology and personalization that can help move those donors from one level of engagement with you to a deeper level of engagement with you to build that pipeline for retention that's going to sustain you over the ups and downs of whatever is happening with the marketplace. So keep your eyes peeled for that. It's going to be releasing today, and we're really proud of it and hope that you enjoy it and get a lot out of it. And then if you'd like to learn more about GivingDNA, just wanted to flash this QR code in front of you. So QR codes are all the rage these days. So if you're just curious more about some of the technology that we've been discussing, you can visit this link and learn more about it. And then I've seen a few questions come in, so I'm just going to take a peek at those. So Cora, we will be sharing the link to sign up for the next sessions. I believe we're still getting some of those landing pages ready to go, but we will be sure to make sure and share those with you as soon as that registration is ready for you. All right, we have an anonymous attendee who wants to know, how do you start a program from scratch?
Take that, Becca. I think first of all, it's understanding what your internal capacity is like to handle this kind of program. Because much similar to how major donors or mid-level donors are handled, this actually is a special group of donors. And so before you kind of jump headlong into it, you need to understand, will we be able to have a person that's kind of dedicated to this program and that can really help steward it and keep it vibrant, have that person that once people sign up to be a part of your program, they have that person to contact if they have any issues and all of that. People are entrusting their bank account or their credit card to you. So there really needs to, this is not a volunteer kind of thing. We really need to have somebody that's on staff that's going to be dedicated to that. So once you kind of figure out what that we have somebody that is going to do that, then you really just need to think about what that structure looks like and what are the benefits to being a monthly donor that your donors will get. And then as Becca talked about, what is that case? Obviously the benefit to the organization is the revenue and the retention, all of that, but what is the case for a donor to make that decision to really step into this kind of relationship with you? So there's we'll talk about that in the subsequent ones, because you'll hear from actual nonprofits who started theirs and how they've tweaked it and optimized it along the way. So I hope you tune in for that. But we have a lot of great thinking around that that you'll see. Those are just a couple of things to think about.
Yeah, I'd add to that, and you went there, Kim, is you really need to take a quick look at your data. There are people probably already in your file that would model to look like a sustaining donor because of the behaviors that they already have in their engagement with you. And so, it's a crawl, walk, jog, run approach, because you've got to look at who are the people that I want to invite into this and understand. I love that you ended there, Kim, with understanding their case for support is really important. So we know what the infrastructure is going to look like on our side, on how we want to set that up. And by our, I mean the nonprofit side. But then we also want to make sure, it's palatable to the audience that we're inviting in to join us, and that we're touching on the things that they care about. And so I think that's going to be really important too. And then part of me just wants to say, just get started. Like, let's look at the data, and you're going to start, learn, and iterate along the way. But the longer that we wait to get this in place, you're putting that predictable revenue at risk. And so that's something, again, we're going to unpack in these upcoming sessions, but I really appreciate the question. And if you have questions that you want to talk to myself or Kim about after the webinar, our emails are here. Feel free to ping us.
Yes. One more question that I love, and I couldn't resist sharing it. Laura asked, are names/branding important for a monthly donor program?
I'm gonna let Kim take that.
Sure. I really think so. We have now, the caveat to that is we do have organizations that only, they just call their monthly donors literally that, monthly donors. However, we've seen that when the program is branded, and you also carry that branding into your website, and there's a special area for these people, they really are as special as your mid-level and major donors. And so to be able to be an annual fund donor, but that to be treated in this special way and even have a name, we've seen a lot of benefit to that. And again, when you hear from some of our great clients in the future who'll talk about their programs, they'll talk a little bit more about how that the branding works and how they're able to really forge relationships, and how people feel that's how they build their community, even because they are a part of this branded program.
Yes. And if you you can even do some research online at some of the name brand organizations that have branded that program. And what I love, and just adding to what Kim has shared about branding your program, is it ties into that subscription mindset that we've been talking about so quickly, because whenever you sign up for, like, let's say a FabFitFun box, if you're in my generation, that may be something that gets marketed to you. They have brands for the different levels that you engage with them, of how much you're paying for that box that's being sent to you. And so that branding your program is just going to align one for one with what they're already experiencing in the consumer market. All right, we're a little bit past our time, but I thank everyone who hung around to get their questions answered. And a lot of the questions that I saw peppering in will be addressed in subsequent installments of this series. So couldn't be more thrilled that this is what we're going to be discussing over the next 2 months, because it's such an important one as we look at the economic landscape that we're staring at. It's just going to be really key for building that retention in that pipeline. So Kim, Becca, thank you so much for putting this information together for our attendees and sticking around to answer questions.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.